I'm really into making my own journals these days, and I really like making them out of scrap neutral papers of all kinds. I love how it creates a really interesting surface to work on, and it gives you a really nice starting point for journaling of any kind, junk journaling, art journaling, collage, whatever you're doing. I keep a box of many different kinds of neutral papers. I've got some craft paper in there, some book pages, decorative papers of other kinds, leftover scraps from projects I've been working on. I like to make these in neutral papers the most because it gives you the most flexibility later. I do find that the books work the best when you've made them out of medium weight papers that are of a similar weight, because you're going to want to fold them. I've tried making them out of like cardboard weight paper, and it just hasn't worked out that great for me. So to get started, I'm basically just going to pick out papers and start gluing them together to create a long strip that I'm going to fold later. I like to take advantage of the straight edge of the papers just because it makes for a nice, neat accordion journal later on, but you totally don't have to do this. I also like ripping the papers so I'm not using them in the size that they're coming out of the box in. I use just a standard glue stick for this. It's perfectly fine. It glues the paper together very well, and you don't need anything else. This glue will dry quicker than like a white fluid glue, and you'll be able to start working on your journal a little faster. So basically, I just pick out random papers from my pile of neutrals that I've taken out of the box that I keep, and I just start gluing those together. I'm going to speed up the video a little bit, or we'll be here for a super long time. And while I'm doing the gluing together in this part of the video, I'll just chat with you more about this type of journal. This journal is called an accordion style or concertina style journal. They're really fun to make. This would be a great project to do with kids. You could make them out of any kind of paper, and all that you're doing at this point is just gluing pieces of paper together to create a long strip. You're not thinking about the layout. You're not thinking about where you're putting things necessarily. You just want to create something that's totally random because it's going to give you a really interesting starting point for whatever art journaling or whatever journaling you're going to be doing. I like using this type of glue stick because it doesn't dry that fast, and sometimes I change my mind about where I want to put my papers. And then another thing I do sometimes is if I look back at the strip that I'm creating and I've used one big piece of paper where there's nothing interesting on it, I'll just go back and rip up a little piece of paper and glue it on the larger area like I'm doing here, just to make that part of the journal look a little more interesting. I like making these quite small. I think it's really fun to journal in a small journal because you could take them with you if you want. They are lower pressure because you don't have as much space to worry about. And here I'm just going back, as I said, to where I had used a full book page and I wanted to make it look a little more interesting. So I'm adding on some different pieces of paper. So I just keep going and create this long strip of paper. I don't measure these. I don't really think about how long it's going to be. I just kind of keep going until I feel like it's long enough. And then that gives me this really nice piece of paper that I can start folding to create my accordion or concertina shape. I usually wait for these to dry completely before I fold them, but because I'm making this video, I will just kind of go ahead and start folding. So as one final step, I'm just taking a quick look around to see if there's anywhere where I would like to glue anything. You know, you could start adding things like stickers and washi tape at this point if you want. I tend to not do that because I want to keep kind of a really basic surface so that I can use these later on for whatever I'm working on. And I like to keep the journal really neutral. So I will start folding this after I kind of cut off this little extra bit at the end here. I keep a pair of old hair cutting scissors that got dull for that purpose, but I've reused them for paper cutting scissors, and they're actually still pretty sharp for paper, and they work just fine. This is a little bit off camera, but now I'm starting to fold my long strip of paper to the size that I'm going to want my final journal to be. And then basically I just keep flipping it back and forth and folding it accordion style to the size that I want it to be. Now, because my glue is still wet here, I'm going to run into a little bit of trouble with my paper sticking together, but that's okay. You can totally do it at this stage, even though it's a little easier if you let it dry. You just have to make sure that your papers don't glue all stuck together. So I'm just going to keep folding back and forth to make my little book. And then once I get to the end of that, then I will have this nice little booklet to work with. I'm going to give it a little bit of a trim, and now I'm just kind of cleaning up the edges. And sometimes I don't even bother doing this. Sometimes I'll keep these edges really just like natural and organic and work with it that way. So that's it. Now I've got this great little booklet to start journaling on for art journaling or junk journaling. I'm going to let it dry, kind of standing up like this so that none of my pages stick together. And this is going to be a really nice surface for me to start doing some of my art on. Thank you for watching. I hope this inspired you to grab some of your scraps and make a beautiful little book for journaling. And if you want more ideas like this, check out my website at artistforeverybody.ca. And most of all, enjoy journaling your world. Take care now.